shit. Panamera maxed out, first class flights out Atlantic to Pacific, yeah, it's lit.
What's up, everybody? So today's episode is going to be on this book. Well, not this book right here, but this book right here. It's the Maori Symbolism. I tried to do it yesterday, but fortunately, I had some technical difficulties. A wire got loose in my mic, so hopefully it holds out. I'll be able to tell why these headphones are on. But this is an interesting civilization, group of people, culture, because of the simple fact that there's a lot of similarities with them from people from all around the world. And within the first pages that I read it, I have it here on my Kindle, and I have a lot of highlights or notes that they call it on here. And I found a lot of similarities with them around, not just on their side of the world, but all around the world. And it was to me important to know about symbolism because that's basically the first writing system, symbolism, pictographic script type things. You know, taking pictures and having those pictures tell the story, basically. So, like I said, one of the first uh, things that I actually tabbed up in this book, or have a highlight on, was, and it struck me very early in the book because this is the preface, and it says, if as the result of further research, it be found that the Moroccan Maori, the American Maya, and the New Zealand Maori are one and the same. So that kind of blew my mind to just read that because Mayans and the American Mayans, which they actually use in this word, what she actually uses in this word, um, it's interesting because uh, I, you know, when you watch movies from people from Mesoamerica, they always have their tattoos on their chins or on their faces, and it almost mimics, you know, what I know about the Maori people. So it's pretty interesting to see that there's a connection between them, not just because, you know, I look at it and see the similarities. I look at it and see it written in a book that's written, you know, and what this is 1926. So you know that got me. So the next highlight that I have is it is said in ancient days it would have been a crime to publish the sacred knowledge of my race, and for such an offense a chief would have been stripped of noble rank. But in the course of my travels, I have found that the people of all civilized countries regard the New Zealand Maori as a native, a savage. Um, the English may talk of him as a fine man, but in their hearts they consider the Maori an inferior and member of a backward race. It is desirable, therefore, to establish the facts of Maori culture. So that was interesting. So the person that wrote this book is Itai. I can never say the name right, but it's a report made by Itai Tai, a route. So it comes with different people helping out putting this together, but that was one of the things that struck me that's interesting, was to get the culture, the history of the people down correctly, because apparently that it was looked at as different than, you know, trying to be a good group of people. So the next tab that I have is, or highlight I have, is in this report I am not stating any set opinions or theories of my own, and I have not excluded evidence which others may misinterpret. In regard to the Jews, I am not suggesting that the Maori are Jews, rather that they are Israelites. So the idea with Israelites and you know, the Jews and stuff like that, just having Maori and all that in the sentences, it just it's amazing to learn about. So that was interesting. The next thing that I have that's interesting in this book is, as to worth of the Maori mode of life, it is in one sense sufficient to record that a little over 1,200 years ago the Maori landed in New Zealand, 800 strong, two-thirds men and the rest women and children. And at the 18th century, That is before the occupation of New Zealand by Europeans. They numbered about one 1 million. Various proofs of this are available. For example, all of New Zealand, particularly in the northern parts, there are the ruins of ancient palisaded villages or walled cities and other fortifications, indications of numerous and active people. So um, I actually went ahead and asked, of course, ChatGPT and Grok, how accurate is this information? So what I usually do is I like to compare what I've read in the book with what ChatGPT or something says, and um, what I found interesting is that I asked it to create a quick PowerPoint slide of what it knows about it, and I asked it to also give me the sources that it used, so the type of sources that it used, and they're like from Britannica and stuff like that. So one of the things that I want to point out is that it says, 13th century here, and then it gives you the society, the traditions, and the worldview. And it gives you a little timeline, which is all this is based off of, pretty close to what I've read in this book or other books. I actually was recommended this book by Go Dev on X. They sent me this book and said, "Hey, read this. This is you might enjoy it," type thing. And what I like to do is I like to take books and read books from different people and just see what they talk about because it's interesting about their culture. So they said this was a good book to start. So the next thing that I have is it says megaliths. There were two methods of building and carving these, which, to the best of my knowledge, have been ignored by Europeans: cold casting in concrete and hot casting or carrying in molten lava. The latter method was not described to me by T. Rake, but my previous knowledge of it is confirmed. In using wet concrete, the Stone Age man employed wooden molds for the blocks forming the walls, etc. A suitable mixture of sand, sacred earth, cement, green rushes, and seawater or sacred water was run into the molds on the building sites, which were near the sea or near lakes and rivers for the sake of convenience. But it is not always necessary to make such a mixture. The Stone Age migrants followed along the track of sacred mountains and hot springs, that is, active volcanoes. So that was interesting to learn about. The next one is, to this day, spearheads are made of molten lava in the Solomon Islands and elsewhere. And T. Rake tells me that after the eruption of Mount Tarawawa, some 40 years ago, squared blocks were cut out of the cooling lava by some of the Maori living in the neighborhood and used for building purposes. If worldwide research is undertaken, the suspected truth may be revealed that these gigantic buildings and statues, which have puzzled Europeans for so long, are, for the most part, cast cold in concrete or cast or cut hot from volcanic rock. This would account for the super abundance of such monuments in certain localities and their absence in others. So that's how they would cut the or make their stones. So that I thought that was pretty interesting. Like I said, you get a lot of this information um, from different places, and it's just to know that this was in 1926. That this is how they say how the Maori people did that stuff. Sacred foods, the tato was regarded as the most sacred of all foods, but all the root foods, the fruits of the earth, were sacred, and as a class, they were called ha-oma, breath food for man, or foods which promoted the breath of life. Tato or tarao was more than this. It was supposed to promote race like ta stalk. So I'm gonna say that again. Promote race life ta stalk. And then it says raw sacred food. Apart from this, taro is ethnologically important because it is a highly cultivated plant without flowers or seeds. So that's interesting. I don't know really. I guess you get good food, I guess, from that, right? Ancient American civilizations. The comparisons made with the ancient Peruvian and still more with the ancient Mexican civilization are quite inadequate, but I have formed the tentative opinion that if certain existing Mexican Indians of the Cordilleras were studied carefully, their connection with the New Zealand Maori could be established. So they're saying that that group of individuals are connected with them. The next one, in considering the connection between the Maori and the American civilization, it must be remembered that the Maori claim to have left Mexico for Peru 3,400 years ago and to have left Peru for the West over 1,500 years ago, arriving in New Zealand about 1250 years ago. So the Maori claim to have left Mexico for Peru 3,400 years ago and to have left Peru for the West over 1,500 years ago, arriving in New Zealand about 1250. So it gets deep, right? Biblical scholars, many find that the name Tekel may be connected with the Maori Tiki, a contraction of T Kai in ancient Mexican Tikal. Tekel is generally translated as weighted, but the idea that is of a life measure or life maker, a race standard or creator. And there is a connection with the inner meaning of swastika. So all I just read right there is connected with swastika. Oh man, they get deep, right? Let's see. The latter half, tika, being the same as tikal or tiki or tikai, i.e., the root sustainer and cultivator of the race, the membrum viral, the representation of Teko, Tikal, and Tiki and Swatika by their sacred life symbols is obviously connected with the ancient fertility cults. All right, so the next one is art. When we speak of Maori art, it must be understood that we speak of Maori symbolism. There was no art apart from symbolism. That is, there was no such thing as art for art's sake. The carving was not sculpture in the European sense at all. It was writing and expression of ideas and principles. That's why I was saying that symbolism and pictographic script is basically one and the same. The word Maori should be spelled Mauri, not how it's spelled as Maori. So it's supposed to be spelled Mauri and should be pronounced Maori, almost Maori or Marari is plural and collective, like Chinese, French, English, etc. Maoris and the still more abominable Maoris, and this is two O's, Moories, are coined words basically coined and quite incorrect. So it's just that's why I hear so many people say it so many different ways. The Holy Land, the land where mankind Maori was created, was Assyria, the land of Western Asia. Okay, I'm gonna read this again. The land, the Holy Land, the land where mankind, and it has in parentheses Maori, Maori, was created, was Assyria, the land of Western Asia. When this land became overpopulated, different sections of mankind migrated in different directions. The white Maori went to the north, the black Maori went to the south, the yellow Maori went to the east, and the brown New Zealand Maori went to the west. There were originally 12 nations or houses of the brown Maori in Assyria, all descended from the Ha-Kopa Jacob, and they first migrated to Egypt, where they built cities. After a time, they returned to Assyria, but a few generations later, they split into two parties, and one party began in its great migration to the west. So all that is right there, who the Maori people are or where they came from. It's deep, right? Jacob, Holy Bible, over here, over there, migrating from there to here. And it's crazy. That's why I said this was interesting. The next tab was the settlers in Mexico had long been in possession when the great white Maori came down from the north and made war upon them. When Mexican fell, or I'm sorry, when Mexico fell, the brown Maori were scattered in defeat, some going north, others to the islands in the Gulf of Mexico, others to different parts of Central America, Yucatan, etc. Many settled in Jamaica or founded colonies in Guiana and countries afterwards said by Europeans to have been inhabited by Arawak tribes. So there we go. The next tab that I got on here was may not the Maori hieroglyphs prove to be the very same as the Assyrian, and may they not be translated with the aid of Maori legends on the walls rocks of Mexico and Peru? Why not consider the Maori account of their voyage westward and never westward from Assyria, and believe that after all, the New Zealand Maori may be the speaking truth when he claims to be the builder of the gigantic monuments found all along the course of migration described in his legends. So they're saying basically the pyramids and all those megalithic structures that lead to New Zealand basically is done all by Maori people, which is interesting. The next tab, as already explained, according to the New Zealand Maori, men were divided into four races: the brown, the yellow, the black, and the white. And these were all Maori. So they were black Maoris, they were brown Maoris, yellow Maoris, and white Maoris. That's basically what they're saying. The advancement of the man depended on the cooperation of these four races in liberty, equality, and fraternity. So they all had to work together. But you can see that if there are all these people from Assyria to Egypt to Mexico to Peru to all the way to New Zealand, you can see how they all not working together. The next tab, discussing the inheritance of facial types before the same section contended that the perfect Greek type of face was now to be found among people of Jewish blood. Examples of the straight line or forehead and nose could not be found in the Jewish schools, preferably in the East End of London. Out of 500 children there, 12 would be found who possessed the perfect classic type of face. So they're just basically talking about faces. This is crazy, right? Look, I got some comments already. Here we go. Yep, what's going on? What's going on? This is what it is. Yep, solo today, brother. Solo dolo. The next tab, the crest of the 12 nations in Assyria were as follows: three reptiles. Then you got the turtle, the eel, and the serpent. Three fishes, and those include even mermaids, and then three beasts. So like everything, so this, like when I talked about the similarities between the Maori and everybody around the world, you can definitely see that. You can see that from just not in their symbolism, but just in their art. I mean, the art tells the whole story. So that's why I always go back to symbolism and art. The next tab is, as already stated, all the members of the 10 nations did not migrate from Assyria to Portugal in the west. Certain parties remained in the various countries through which the migrants passed, and the subsequent migrations with their consequent Maori in many directions. But the main body of each nation can be definitely traced by their crests and signs. The two nations which remained in Assyria were the mermaid and the player. 10 nations migrating being the turtle, the serpent, the eel, the fish, the whale, the lion, the dog, the bull, the dove, and the eagle. The three nations which fell out en route were the whale, the lion, and the eagle, leaving 5 nations to go to Mexico: the turtle, the fish, the dog, the bull, and the dove. To these must be added women from eel and serpent nations. Of all these, as already mentioned, only the turtle or Arawa nation reached New Zealand. The traditional descent of the Arawa Maori is from Ihaka, Isaac, which is from the Bible, who was the son of Abraham. So there, Abraham is Abraham, and the son of Ihaka was Hakopa, who is Jacob. From when came the 12 house of I don't even know how to say this. It's Ihi Ra Iwi. The word Iwi means literally the ribs of the house of a man, and etc. Therefore, Iwi means the people. So, man, it's just so interesting that when I say that everything leads to God, no matter what your God is, or your in the person you worship, um, the symbolism with them and somebody else that believes in the same God that you believe in, they will see those same symbolisms, even though that it could possibly be two different representations of a God. The next tab, the New Zealand Maori also had the name Kara Iti, the Maori equivalent of our Christ. So they're saying in this book that the New Zealand Maori also had the name Kara It, which is ITE, and that was equivalent
Unknown
to
caller.
Jesus. I don't know if y'all could hear that. I had somebody call me. I don't know what the heck. Let me cancel this out real quick. You get them spam calls. Sometimes I forget to take my Bluetooth off on my phone. I don't know if y'all heard that or not. But let's see the next tab. Tuturara lizard was taken as a representation of the reptile, the oldest stage, but it was not supposed that the Tututara was actually the first creature. Thus, the history of civilization, according to the Maori sacred legends, can be divided in two main eras. First man to Israel and migration from Assyria to the, I can't even read it because it's so small, present time. So yeah, there you go with some more similarities with the religions. And they have a whole let's see. I'm gonna see if I can bring this up. This would probably make more sense if I was able to show you. It's loading up because it's there we go. So I don't know if y'all would be able to see that. Hold on. Yeah, so it gives you like a timeline of Europe, Egypt, and Mesopotamia. And then you can see in so many, I mean, probably could take a screenshot and zoom in yourself. But you can see how it tells you about the transition period, the Neolithic man spreading into Europe, first late dwellings, and so on and so forth. So you can see how just in this book by itself, it shows you how it has a column of three things, and it's including itself in that column, and it's letting you know that, hey, this is the similarities between us and them. And that's how some people say that we all came from one group set of individuals, and the religions and the stories from the first group of individuals carried on for, many, many years. Let's see. I don't even know what page that was on. Hold on. Yeah, I'm almost there because I remember this now. So the ideas between these different civilizations and their beliefs in gods and who their gods are, it had to come from one source, but that doesn't mean that it has to be the same story. Two people can hear the same story two different ways, and then they'll both go tell somebody else, and now you got multiple more different stories because they're going to take that story and interpret it their own way. The next tab I have is the same principle in peacetime was applied to regard to infant life. Children were precious, the most precious of all the community's wealth, but the deformed child had to be given the peaceful death for its own benefit and for that of the community. I'm not going to speak anymore on that. In ancient times, the Maori had two meals in the day, the first about a couple of hours after rising and the second one in the early evening. At midday, they had only a snack, usually some dried fern root, with a drink of cabbage water, accurately described as herbal beer. Fish might be eaten in the morning or vegetables. At the evening meal, birds occasional form the staple dish, or the meal night might consist of fish, cabbage, and fern root, which fish and birds were not eaten every day. Cabbage, sweet potatoes, and fern root were the most usual articles of diet. Um, they have a section in hygiene and sanitation. It says the ambition of Maori men was to grow big and fine and handsome, strong and healthy. Thus only could they be sure of gaining the greatest rewards life held, to be blessed and classed by the elders as among those fit to reproduce the generations of the next generations, to be selected by the first women as their mates, and to take rank among the elders and leaders. The training and education necessary to attain bodily fitness described elsewhere, but personal hygiene included other details such as cleanliness, care of the skin, hair, and teeth, and above all, the frequent exposure of the body to sunlight. So you gotta be out there in sunlight. To the Maori mind, the object of clothing was to protect the body against wind, rain, or cold. It was not worn for the sake of decency or to enhance beauty. It was simply a matter of utility. Various cloaks, absurdly and erroneously described as mats, were designed for special purposes. Some were made for beauty alone, but these uh, were used only as wall decorations. So they got a whole section on religion and race selection. I'm just going to read parts of it because this section is pretty good. So I highly get this for this part right here. If you want to know about the religion ideas, this is a good part. It says religion to the Maori was something practical, a religion of works rather than faith. Always he was guided by results. The object of life was joy, but that joy had to be founded on the welfare of the community. Whatever benefited the community benefited each member of that community, as an ancient proverb put it. A man's happiness is in the happiness of the community, and the happiness of the community is in the happiness of each other. Thus, whatever led to joy was regarded as right and innocent. Anything which led to needless pain or suffering was wrong and sinful. In battle, the Maori was overcoming sin, defeating the sinful, stamping out wrong. There was no such thing as purposeless fighting. Fighting victory was the reward of innocence, and right defeat the punishment of great guilt and sin. Yeah, the words on here are pretty small, so I gotta really look at it. Let's see. The next one is there was another reason for the joyful ceremonies held at birth. The Maori believed that there were three worlds: the world of the unborn, women; the world of the living, the earth; and the world of the dead, paradise. So the the world of the dead is paradise. Just keep that in mind. And think about how some people who believe that it's always evil things. Paradise can be anything. It's subjective to anybody, to different people. Every name of every Maori had an inner meaning racially and socially. Whenever a Maori died, he went straight to paradise. His near relatives prepared his body for burial, unless he had died of some disease, when the body was immediately buried, and the house in which he had died, as well as all his belongings, were burnt. That's crazy. They burn everything. They say, "Nah, you had a disease. We gotta get rid of all this." Next tab. To the Maori, all men were born innocent and died innocent. Sin was limited to the earthly life. Those who did wrong in life were punished in life. Those who did right were rewarded in life. After death, all mankind went to paradise. There was no conception of hell in the Maori religion, but each one entered paradise in the state that he attained by his own efforts in life. It's interesting, right? No matter what, you go into heaven or paradise. Mankind, the earth, the sun, the air, all were works of the unknown creator. The earth, the sun, the air were worshipped not as gods, but as works of the creator, as gifts which it was the sacred duty of man to use in the best possible way. Indeed, man fulfilled the wishes of the creator, best worshipped him most efficiently by cultivating the earth and enjoying its fruits to the utmost. Sounds like the Bible almost. Just toil the earth and you get whatever you want. Let's see. The next tab. This was the religion of the Maori, that reward came from merit, not from mercy, and that a man would be judged by the result he had himself attained. Briefly stated, the objects he must achieve in order to live in accordance with the wishes of the Creator were happiness by living always in the realm of love, fitness by constant regard for his health and care of the body, multiplication by producing the best fruit of his body. Almost done. The next tab, the Jubilee year of the Maori, in fact, is practically identical with the Jubilee year of the ancient Egyptians and Israelites, as described in Leviticus 20:25. It may be noted that the Maori dwellings in walled and unwalled cities are similar to those described in the Old Testament. The similarity of the Maori health laws to the health laws of Moses will have been obvious to those who have read the sections dealing with health. Everybody will have some kind of sanitation thing, at least bare minimum, right? But you would think at least. Before the coming of the Europeans, the forest harbored numbers of the so-called Maori rat. This was a tree climber with the long fur and bushy tail about the size of a modern Persian cat. Colored brown and gray, it may have been a raccoon. It is now alleged to be quite extinct in New Zealand. The Maori says that this animal was originally brought from Peru and was kept at first as a pet, but it bred and overran the villages and gardens, so that it would had to been turned out into the forest. The Maori name for it was Cori Negrio. So maybe a raccoon, that's what they say, right? All right, the methods of the calculation employed by the Maori resembled those used in ancient Mexico and Peru and were adequate to ensure accuracy of enumeration of persons, houses, food stores, and so forth. In the days of the Spanish conquest of Peru by means of the Quipas Maori Kupu, war losses were ascertained by the Incas, and the community which had been least unfortunate helped those worse off, so that the burdens were shared equally as far as possible. It is not too much to say that if scholars had brought to bear on the relics of Maori civilization half the care and patience that have been given to the civilization of the ancient world, they would have reaped an even higher, richer harvest. That's a lot. The only Maori hell was the hell on earth, which a man made for himself, and the only rewards were those required by merit. So hell is hell on earth. Was it any wonder that the 19th century readers of Erewhon in The Coming of Race detected the identity of two books? But this identity does not disprove their entire independence. What it does do is establish the necessity for explaining the identity. Why did Samuel Butler and Bulwer Lytton write philosophical romances which set forth the same philosophy? I think I just took that note down for those books, so I'm not going to read that whole thing because I remember it doesn't really talk about too much nothing in there. The explanation of this striking coincidence can only be that both these English scientists obtained their fundamental conceptions and even their terms in regard to evolution from the same source, that is, from the Maori, whose philosophy and science had spread along the route of the migration from America to New Zealand. So they're saying that the Maori people possibly came from America. So when people say that what happened to the Mayans, the Aztecs, and these people and all that, they don't realize that these people just moved somewhere else. That their land is no more where they're at. Some of them moved somewhere else, and some of them moved somewhere else and brought the same traditions to another place, and that's why symbolism is important. I mean, all I've been reading about right here is that this Maori people and the people of New Zealand, their similarities is right there with the people in the Americas and Peru and Mexico, the Mayans, and and so on and so forth, and then the Egyptians, the what I'm saying. So it's just like, nah, how's that possible? Hey, that's exactly how I'm looking when I'm reading this book. When I was reading this book, I was like, yo, is this truly absolutely serious? And you can see it in the symbolism. You can see that, like I said, the tattoos on the face right here. That part right there was just like, well, where else in the world would you see that at? The next tab I have is the Maori legend is really identical with the story of Jacob and Esau in Genesis. Only the Maori believe that the word Rebecca should be translated as Mother Earth. So now we're going to the Holy Bible with this. We're like, what the heck? Now they're saying that the Maori people could have actually been, the people that were written in the Bible. Makes you think, right? Just makes you think. They do talk about certain tattoos in the Bible. Let's see. The brown Maori has always been willing to share with the yellow, the black, and the white Maori, and any knowledge he may have gained, and in his turn has welcomed their special knowledge. But he still believes that, judged by its results, the life and development he had achieved. Just when you read these books, you always read stuff where it's always about some type of race: black, white, yellow, red, so on and so forth. So whenever there's a serious conversation about civilizations, that race is going to come up. Um, and it's important to understand from their perspective what they was meant by some of that. Let's see. One thing that I took a note on here was Anu, Anu, because a lot of people know from the Sumerians, Anu is the individual who is the most powerful god. He's the head of the Anunnaki, right? So they have right here, Peruvian crop plants may give an idea of the extent and variety of domestications that were accomplished in Peru. And they have a plant called Anu, which is tropicolum, which I have no idea what that is, but that's just um, something that I marked on here because I thought that was very interesting to learn about. Just because it's a plant that sustains life too. So let's go to the next tab. The close of the British Empire exhibition in 1924, it was dismantled and sent back to New Zealand for the exhibition in Dunedin. T. Rake was in charge of the house while it was Wembley, and he was okay. So this is just talking about this expedition that they had in here. Nothing. That was just a bookmark that I had. So they talk about. We got a section right here called, and this is we're about done anyway. It's loading up right now because this is on my Kindle. Sometimes when you download these PDFs, it's slower than it should be. But they have a section in here called the Pyramid Builders. And the whole section is important. And this is like towards the end of the book. And it says the Maori sacred legend regarding the building of the pyramids are very long, taking several hours to recite, and only a brief summary can be given here. They state definitely that two pyramids were built by the Maori near Cairo when in captivity in Egypt, one dedicated to the sun and the other to the moon, in the name of the Egyptian king under whose compulsion they worked as, and it's spelled Parao. So that could be the same god as the one that most people know him as. But according to the Maori legends, the two pyramids were built of blocks made artificially in somewhat the same manner as concrete is now made. They were composed of concrete or desert sand mixed with a small quantity of sacred earth, solid mud from the riverbed with green bulrushes and water from the sacred river. At first, only riverside rushes and reeds were used. Later on, tall green grass had to be gathered from inland. The water was siphoned up from the river. The rushes were brought on the heads of the carriers to the builders of the site of the work. So in here, they say the Maori or the people of the Maori tradition culture are responsible for building the pyramids. Now, will a lot of people believe that? Probably not. They wouldn't like to take that into consideration. But here's some more stuff. The pyramids in Mexico, Peru, and Assyria were sacred edifices with a temple at the top and vaults within for storing the national records and treasures. They were also used as fortifications and for astronomical purposes. The Egyptian pyramids were the only ones built without a temple on top. This was because they were never completed according to the plans of the designers, who had meant to build a temple at the top, but that afflictions imposed by the Egyptians on the builders became so intolerable that the Maori communities decided to escape from Egypt and return to their holy land, Assyria. Their leader in this exodus were Maori, a priest of the highest rank and a teacher and scientist named Arona, who was a very good speaker. It's crazy. The Egyptians were, of course, aware of the projected departure of the Maori, but did not attempt to hinder them. Firstly, because they were afraid of the steadily, rapidly increasing numbers of the Maori, and secondly, because they connected the presence of the Maori with the plagues which had visited Egypt ever since the Maori had been forcibly detained and enslaved. So let's see. Let's go to the next one. All right, the next one is the reason why the Egyptians got the Maori people to build the pyramids was that the Maori was well known to be a nation of great builders. The Egyptian pyramids were to be even greater than those of Assyrian. The sloping superstructure was placed upon the ordinary vertical oblong Assyrian design. The foundations of all the pyramids were made the same in design. So this is interesting. The Maori are responsible for building the pyramids. And what's interesting about that is everybody says, well, how did the Egyptians build the pyramids? How did they do this? How did these people do it? Well, I always asked and said to myself, well, isn't it possible that somebody else did it? I mean, that's the only thing I can go off. But the gods offended at the presumption sent from fires from heaven on the pyramid and compelled them to abandon the attempt. Okay, so this part that I just read is says the popular tradition of the natives is that it was erected by the family of giants who had escaped the great inundation and designed to raise the building to the clouds. Okay, so that's basically like the Tower of Babel story. That's why I marked that one up. But just to know that the Maori people are the ones who built the pyramids. So if you don't think the Egyptians did it, the Maori people have been saying how you could do that for years. Let's see the next tab that I got. Let's see. I don't think I have any more on here. I think that was it. I think that was towards the end. That's pretty quick. It's not a really long book. This book is very short. But it's very well, I'm not gonna say very short, but it is pretty short. Let me see something. One of the things that I liked about it is just reading how there was just so many similarities between civilizations from all the way from the their side of the world to all the way across the other way. So let's see. Here we go. Here, let's see. I got a couple of more. Here we go. The carvings is a representation of the god of comforter and helper. It is the figure of a combined bird, turtle, and serpent. The bird is divine. The turtle is wonderful land worker. The serpent is a wonderful swamp worker. The bird represents good fortune for the seasons. The turtle represents agriculture. and harvesting success, and the serpent represents proper growth and irrigation. The Birdman lingers in Christianity in the form of the archangel, angel, and etc. The winged beings of ancient Assyria should be compared with Maya figures offering gifts to deities. Feathers and faces were commonly used by prehistoric men as disguises of the symbols. So they're just basically saying that the Birdman in the Maori civilization that's equivalent to what I was just talking about. The first sign here is the sacred symbol of the children, TT, or descendants. Let's see, the male symbol with horizontal line underneath with part. So the male symbol with the T or a cross that's sometimes depicted as a man. So basically like a cross or a T. Tiki is the good man and the man. Tiki is the god and the man in Moana. I don't even know how to say this, is Riwa Mai I Naga Tawa Tiki Kaka is the country. So but I just marked that one because of the word Moana. My son loved that movie. Both my kids actually love that movie, but my son will watch that movie over and over again. Let's see, the tribes under the leadership of both men were referred to the gods of strength. Both tribes were encouraged to put their trust in God. Let's see, the next tabs is in Maui mythology. Maya Ra was the goddess who watched over travelers and voyagers. She was especially the goddess of navigators or the sea goddess. Hence, great navigators were called sons of the sea heroes. That is Maya or Maya, the mother Mercury in Roman mythology. Also, month of May and May Day festivals throughout Europe. Next tab. Says man was descended from two ancestors, a hairy or beast-like ancestor and a non-hairy man-like ancestor. It was the duty of man and woman to develop the mental, moral, and physical characteristics of their non-hairy ancestor and to repress and eradicate those of their hairy ancestor. So that's interesting. Man, I'm telling you, reading this book, it made me think about a lot of stuff. The next tab, this whole chapter is about ancient Israelites, and it shows how Maori and ancient Israelites have a lot of common, possibly one and the same. I'll just read the first paragraph. It says, the outcome of the evidence is that proof is available in the Maori sacred legends to show that the brown or brunette peoples known to us in history as the ancient Israelites have spread themselves all over the world. One stream of the dark whites reached New Zealand as the Maori, some of these having remained in parts of South Sea Islands. The next tab is the New Zealand Maori also had the name Karaiti, which is equivalent for our Christ. I already said that. I don't know why I got that one, and I probably repeated it somewhere in the book. But I think that. Okay, yeah. So here we go. Almost done. The black Maori has remained almost exclusively in Africa. The yellow Maori in Asia, China, and the white Maori in Europe, excepting for raiding expeditions for food and etc., which the white Maori has not known how to cultivate in sufficient quantities and with sufficient ease for his needs and comfort. And the last tab is the contention of the New Zealand Maori is that white Maori, the European, is less improved man than the brown Maori, and that this is proved by the fact that the European nations are predominantly conquerors and robbers, whereas the brown Maori nations are predominantly cultivators. The New Zealand Maori philosophers contend that physically, mentally, and morally. So that was it right there. That was the book. I thought it was a good book. It was interesting to me. Let's see. I'm going to pull up the next book that I'm going to do. I think it's on chakras, actually. I know somebody was asking me about if I had a book on chakras a couple of days ago. And I was like, yeah, I think it's coming up on one of the lists. So this is, let me see, should be coming up on it soon. Yeah, the next one, yep, chakra healing, a beginner's guide to self-healing techniques that balance the chakras by Margarita Katina, whatever the case may be. I'm not sure how to say that person's name. But what I did want to do is, and I forgot to download this video. So I tried to broadcast my entire show on different social media platforms and stuff like that. I use oh no, I got it right here. I can use it right here. I use Spotify. I have Apple, iHeart. I'm on Rumble and so on and so forth. And I try to put as much information as I can out there. And sometimes I make regular videos. I'm a boots on ground individual also. So as much as I promote reading books, as you can see, if you go to my YouTube channel or my Rumble channel, I have a playlist literally named "What I've Learned from Reading This Book," and I have more books on there that I've shared with the public of the information that I've learned in research since then, with everybody out there. There's more books than some people have read in their whole entire lives. So just to know that I have more books that I've actually went over and some people have actually read in their entire lives is a great accomplishment. Because I don't tell you what to believe and I don't say what I believe as far as facts and fiction. I can just tell you what I've read. So because of that, I make music videos because I'm only a one man show. I create my own show. I do have a co-host. He's just starting out with me, and he's actually got his own thing going on too with acting and stuff like that. And so I want to keep this momentum of stuff going. But I also, I'm a boots on ground person. I have a section on my YouTube and all my other things, boots on ground, basically historical places that I've visited. And I've been to places all over, from South Korea to, yeah, definitely. If that Jesus was here, he could have added another few hours to the stream. You ain't lying about that. Um, and that's actually a good point. Before I continue, I try to keep this at a certain time, but it's hard. So many people only have so much time in their day to do this, and like I said, I have more books on my playlist. What I've learned from reading this book than some people have read in their life. So I know for a fact they're not going to be able to watch every book or commentary on every book that I've went over. But I've went over some pretty good books that talk about serious different things. And I also do a lot of interviews. And like I said, I'm a boots on ground person, so I go to historical places. I've been places from all the way from South Korea all the way to California. And my bucket list right now is to visit every museum and or mound in each state, 50 states. And that's my bucket list for right now. I've been quite a few different places, but my boots on ground is basically me going to a place filming like I would as a documentary, coming back home, doing a narration for it if I want to, or do a song for it. So that way the song can actually share what I've actually uh, went to go do. And I do that because, like I said, I only have but so much time to do everything that I want to do. So I try to use my time wisely. And some people like music and I just try to do different things. I'm not like most people out there who have a podcast or a show or something where they all do the same thing over and over again. So this is a video. Hopefully, let me see the sound plays. Yeah. I'm going to play this video of this church that I went to. It's the first African American Baptist church in Savannah. And because it's in song format, Spotify wouldn't let me upload it straight to that thing. So I have to mix it in with the show. So since this show's less than almost an hour, I'm just going to play this video of this church that I've been to, and get this show on the road. It's going to start playing as soon as I bring it up. Yeah, there we go.
Down in Savannah, where the river runs wide, a story was planted that refused to hide. In 1773, in a world so cruel, a preacher named George Lill broke the silence with truth. Whispers in the dark turn to voices in light, faith in the chest, and a fire in the night. They tried to name it, tame it, split it, bend it, but it stood like a light. I'm still standing, still present.
First African,
we remember your name.
oldest roots rising
Through the storm and the pain, from chains to choirs, from hush to hallelujah. A house of freedom with a holy view. Savannah streets still echo what you started to do.
First African,
Whoa, we see you. Formally organized in 1788. Brick by brick, hope wouldn't wait. Change names, change paths, still the same heartbeat. A sanctuary strong with history under its feet. And on the grounds, a museum keeps time. 18th century memories preserved in the light. Artifacts and records, the proof in the pages. A living testimony passed down through ages. We remember your name.
oldest roots rising
Through the storm and the pain, from chains to choirs, from hush to hallelujah. A house of freedom with a holy view. Savannah streets still echo what you started to do.
First African,
We see you. Underground footsteps,
quiet prayer,
coded song, guiding the weary when the road felt long. And when civil rights called, you answered that sound with courage in the pews and your feet on the ground. Not just a church, but a people aligned, holding the past while you step through time.
First African, First African,
We remember your name.
oldest roots rising
Through the storm and the pain, from chains to choirs, from hush to hallelujah. A house of freedom with a holy view. Savannah streets still echo what you started to do.
First African, we honor you.
The door's still open and the spirit still moves. First African in Savannah, still telling the truth.
All right, so that was the that was just basically I wanted to put that on there because of the simple fact, like I said, Spotify won't let me load it up there, so I said, hey, just to keep this going, these boots on ground, people can see. That's just something that I do. That music was made by Suno. I typed in, the history of what I've learned when I went on my tour to that museum or that church, and I said put it into. I basically had ChatGPT or Rock, whichever one, put it into a song format. Changed up a couple of things and put it in Suno and came up with that. That was just a way that I can make some things interesting for some people. Like I said, I try to do different things. I'm not just up here trying to talk. I'm not trying to be entertainment. I'm not trying to be over here joking about anything. I just want to get the information in and out and give it to you. So that was basically the Maori civilization, which I talked about. So the Maori symbolism, it tells you exactly. Like I said, I'm shocked that they were all over. The cultures and some of the missing links. A lot of people talk about missing links, and this can legit be one of the missing links. And until people stop with their egos and stop trying to be like, that's not right because they didn't find it type mentality, then we'll never get to the truth because they got to be the first one to find it first, or at least a version of their truth that they want. So I enjoyed this one. I'm always going to make sure that the next time that I have something like this, I can bring the facts of what is to the civilization or whatever it is out there that we have. So like I always say, knowledge is power.
Got a little hype now, can I let it die down? I remember days in the trench. Time to go hard in, time to go all in, time to get my all to this shit. Panamera maxed out, first class flights out Atlantic to Pacific, yeah, it's lit.